Hi, I'm Mary Beth Stapleton, Manager of Family and Community Partnerships for Harford County Public Schools. Welcome to the Parent Academy Virtual Real Talk on how we support our students with special needs during the COVID-19 closure. With me today is Caroline Bond, who is in our special education department, right, Caroline?
Yes, I am.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, to get us started, I'd love to hear about what you do for Harford County Public Schools and, what your background is.
All right. I work in the Parent Resource Center. It is located at Roy Williams if you're ever looking for it. We work with families in special education, trying to connect them to resources in the area or help them if they had questions about any of their IEPs or their distance learning as we are right now. My background is I was a special education teacher for 7 years. I taught in 3 different states. My husband's military, so we move fairly regularly. And then I became a stay-at-home mom for a little bit, and now I am trying to get back into the workforce a little bit. And this works perfectly for our family because you get to work with different families and you meet their needs who are also school age. And my children are school age, so that helps to kind of work together and understand where people are coming from.
Wonderful. So, Caroline, when you work with families, is there a certain age group that you work with, or do you work with kindergarten all the way through senior high?
I work with kindergarten all the way through 21 because in special education you can stay through 21 if you choose to finish high school. Carrie Sadowski works with infants and toddlers, so she works with the birth through kind of age 4-ish. We
Okay.
kind of gray area. We kind of both help out in the pre-K, pre-kindergarten section. So
Nice. Okay, so you have all kinds of different ages that you work with and stages. So
yeah.
you are an expert in this. This is great. Thank you.
I don't have experts, but we try.
I know as a parent, we never say we're experts, right? Or
Yeah.
as an educator, there's always something more to learn every day for sure.
Sure.
Oh, yes. But thinking about the Family Resource Center, so Roy Williams is located, I think it's over near Route 40, right?
It is right
Yeah.
off 40. If anybody knows like Swan Harbor, it's kind of right down that road over the train tracks.
And so you have that center to help families in all of Harford County, not just in that
Yes,
community. Oh,
absolutely.
very good. Okay. And so what does the Resource Center do for, I mean, what are you doing now that you're not at Roy Williams? So how does the day-to-day look for you?
Well, the phone line still works. So if a parent has a question, they're welcome to call, and I check the phones at least every other day, if not daily. Working from home has been different because most of what I had been building, I've only been in this job about a year now, so it's still a building process. Most of the parents I would meet with independently, one-to-one at the office, or we talk on the phone. So that part hasn't changed. I'm still happy to call parents and we speak on the phone, and just try to connect them to resources or answer any questions they may have. A lot of parents right now are reaching out and asking about area resources they may have, or where to find some technologies to support their students. So it's linking them to the technology. Right now, a lot of parents are speaking directly to their teachers, which has been fantastic. So questions that come up, instead of calling me to have answered, they call the teacher, and that
Oh,
works
good.
out great.
Yeah. And that's something I've been saying to parents that I've spoken with. I've been overseeing, helping out with the COVID hotline. And first things first, talk to your child's teacher and make sure. And, sometimes, especially for our families that are in middle and high school, we're not always super, okay, this teacher teaches this subject.
Yeah.
So it's fine to loop back to the administration and say, could you, or counselor, school counselor, who was my teacher for this subject? So, but that said, I do think that that's the best resource for our families right now is making sure that, and teachers are on every day, all day, they're working
Yeah.
to support families, including our teachers, our special education teachers, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of our special education teachers are checking in weekly with their families via phone, via Teams. Some of them are doing some visual Teams classrooms, not necessarily for teaching, but for some of the social emotional support or for some of the speech therapy. or occupational therapy, which is great because then as the parent, you can hear what's going on, and maybe that helps to reinforce it at home so your child continues to keep learning and practicing what the skills they have in their IEPs and in their distance learning plans.
So what is exactly when you say IEP? I know our families with students with special needs know what that is, but for those that don't, what exactly is an IEP?
An IEP is the individualized education plan. It's the plan that the school system and the parent put in place to help meet the student's needs. So it identifies where the student might need some additional supports or accommodations, and the team meets together and they put them together in an IEP or an individualized plan. And that's how the school system and the students get to work together during the traditional school year. Right now, you have the distance learning plans, and those are written a little differently for the families to work with at home.
Right. So thinking about the resources that the Family Resource Center would provide when you were, at school,
Yes.
versus what you're providing now. So when you say a parent calls you and they need some assistance, what kind of assistance can you provide for them?
We have lending libraries. So there's libraries if they're looking for different topics of books to read. We have lent out social emotional books for different social skill learning for younger children or older children. We have some books on dyslexia and autism, and a couple on Down syndrome. We also have a laminator, so children who use some of the picture cues to accomplish some of their skills, they can come in, they can laminate those,
Oh,
use at home, and that's a free charge. I've had parents also come in just to meet, and sometimes we would like to just talk, and we kind of talk about what else should I be doing as a parent, because you always feel like there's something else you should be doing,
hmm.
and trying to, if there's a base you hadn't covered, what you should talk about. We looked at IEPs together and tried to see if what the parents' concerns were are recognized in the IEP. We have also met together, and they just want to tell me how things are going for their children in school, where their frustration is with communicating with the school, where they're happy with the schools, and a lot of it's just getting to talk and see where their child is and where they were hoping their child could grow to, and
Wow.
trying to support them in that.
So thinking about a Family Resource Center now that we're closed, and thinking about how to support families at home, remembering that some of our families have parents that are out working as essential workers, or not necessarily home to support the day to day.
Right.
What are some ideas that you have for parents on and kind of how to manage that day to day, and how to handle some of the struggles that might come up, especially for our families with students with special needs?
I think a lot of it's about giving yourself a break, and allowing yourself to try and tackle each day independently. I mean, because there's so much going on right now, and the emotions of your children, of yourself, can be all over the place, and your workload can be all over the place. So it's just trying to do what you can for your child right now. And I know in my house, it involves taking a lot of breaks. So we try to accomplish a little bit, and then we take a break.
Well, and I think to your point, all families right now feel this extra burden of, I have to be the one now to move my child's education forward. And that's not the message.
That's right.
The message is, we have teachers, we have special educators, we have all hands on deck that are there to support the day to day.
Absolutely.
And I think that sometimes parents, they feel like they can't reach out because they don't want to seem like they're not handling everything, and they don't want to be seen or embarrassed that, oh my gosh, I need help, and I don't want to admit that I need help. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is, go ahead, say it, we're here, right?
Yeah. Reach out. Go ahead and reach out, because a lot of the teachers miss having their children, the students, in class as well. So they would love to hear, what else could we do? What else can I help with your child for? I know I've reached out to my children's teachers a couple of times, just because I'm like, I'm not sure what we're supposed to do here.
Right.
Or I can't get the technology to work. What have I done wrong? And each
Mhm.
time they've been able to help me figure it out. and then it goes a little smoother.
Yeah. Well, thinking about technology, so some families, every child has a laptop, everybody's online, it's working as far as that goes, and there's access. And I know that our system, our leadership is looking at trying to, get some more devices into the hands of children. But that said, for those families with students with special needs that may not have reliable technology or access every day. Maybe there's 4 kids trying to handle one laptop, which I've
Right.
heard from some families.
Yeah.
Um, just as a special educator, is technology always the answer? I mean, I think sometimes we think, oh, I have technology, so that means I'm going to be okay. But that's not necessarily the best all the time, right?
No, not all the time. Absolutely not. I mean, there's definitely lots of ways you can do learning without technology. I mean, you can nature. I mean, just going outside and talking about what you see and observing that, and just using your communication skills and learning to take observational with your eyes, and I'm not even taking notes, just talking about like, what is it we see? What do you think that could be?
Right.
Um, or just math problems. I know in our house we've been doing a lot of cooking because we're home all the time, so we have to feed everybody.
Yeah.
And little lessons with fractions and what's 1/4 mean on a measuring cup, and how do you figure that? What happens if
Mhm.
we need 2 1/4? What does that equal? And
Right.
those are simple things that don't need any technology, and yet they're life skills too that help down the road as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the Family Resource Center could also provide, right? So if a family calls and says, "Okay, we have technology, it's not as accessible to everybody all day. What are some tips and tricks that we can use as a family?" That's something you could provide them.
I could actually give some ideas of things they could do. And obviously, what a kindergartner is capable of doing is completely different than an 11th grader. So,
Sure.
trying to gear it towards the age group of the child we're talking about, we can definitely come up with some suggestions of things to do that aren't technology based. And so can your teachers as well. So, if you're talking
Right.
to your teachers and you're explaining, like, hey, there's 4 of us and we don't have enough technology to go around, what can we do that's not? They can help provide some suggestions as well.
Oh, good. Okay. And then thinking about, so a family that has a child with special needs and thinking about the day-to-day schedule, you did say, first things first, relax,
Yeah.
try to breathe,
Take a breath.
take a breath. But that said, what are your suggestions? Like if a family called you and said, we're really struggling, what do you think a good kind of suggested schedule would be for that family?
I think some of it depends on the type of student. I know in some houses, letting the student take the lead has worked really well. When you look at some of the um, skills or lessons they're supposed to accomplish during the week, and you write them down and you just let them pick what works for them on what day, and say by Monday, by noon, everything needs to be done, and see if that works. In other houses, like my house, we have to have a very structured, like, today you're going to do your math, and then math is done. Tomorrow we're going to do reading and and we build it that way, because I have elementary school age children, so they're not ready to pick and choose. But by the time you get to middle and high school, they may be ready to kind of take that lead, and let them take that lead, especially if they can make it work in the timeline. And then you're giving them that freedom to have a choice, to have a say, when there's a lot going on where they can't have a say.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can help with that social emotional piece too, to have some control. Well, that's a
Yeah.
great suggestion. Well, I thank you so much for what you're doing for our families, and especially in this time that it's just such uncertainty. And so you're kind of probably a voice of reason for families with students with special needs, especially. So,
Hopefully.
oh,
Hopefully.
I'm sure. Well, thank you for everything, Caroline, and we really
Thank you.
appreciate you. Well,
Have a
thank
good
you. Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for the Parent Academy Virtual Real Talk on how to help our students with special needs during this COVID-19 closure. And we'll see you next time. Thanks and stay well.